right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton of stuff going on around the world. We're going to talk about all of that in just a moment. So we'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. What is going on? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we're going to be talking about a ton of stuff, but to remind you, if you are new here or somebody shared my stuff with you, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com to get our notifications directly from us instead of depending on the kind of iffy ones that come out by the platforms. Make sure to head over there and get those. Now, also, every episode has a bibliography. That means we list every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today is all going to be available over on the website. Now, when you go over there, it's very easy to navigate. It is all done by thumbnail. You'll look for meeting in progress. Are they deciding our fate? We're going to talk about it. It says for their eyes only is today's show, and that is referring to the CIA/Congress meeting. All of the top people in Congress are basically going into a closed-door meeting with the head of the CIA. So something is going on. We're going to talk about all of that today and much, much more. So stick around. It's going to be a good one. Grab your coffee, grab your water, grab whatever drink that you are drinking. I don't want to ask. I'm not going to invade your privacy. But again, get ready. It's going to be a good one. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So, first of all, just a extra reminder. Remember, at the very bottom of this screen, there is a yellow bar. That yellow bar is the web only and overflow. That's all the stuff that we could not fit into today's show. So remember to check that. That is a whole lot of stuff that has been compacted in there. It's a whole other show. It may end up being some sort of Rumble show eventually. So let's get started. NASA probe ready to slam into an asteroid this month in landmark planetary defense tests. So I have talked about DART since the inception of it. And this is going to be supposedly when this thing hits the asteroid. It says in 2 weeks, NASA will open a new era for the solar system. The milestone comes courtesy of the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART mission, which launched just last fall on September 26th. DART will slam headfirst into a small asteroid, the rare case when a spacecraft's destruction is the desired outcome. The mission is the name of the planetary defense, which seeks to protect Earth from any potential asteroid impacts. Again, it says scientists hope that should a dangerous asteroid threaten the planet in the future, a mission like DART could avert the disaster. Now, there's many things that have been talked about as far as asteroid defense, such as actually putting a solar sail on the asteroid and trying to use the solar energy to draw it away. They've talked about nuking it with HAMMER, Hypervelocity Asteroid and Mitigation Emergency Vehicle. That's basically a nuke strapped onto a rocket. That's more of what you've kind of seen on what the movie was, Don't Look Up. And then, of course, Deep Impact, where they landed on it. That's actually a real plan, too. Landing on it, drilling, and trying to destroy it from the inside. The problem is with a lot of these, they have, different side effects or, negative scenarios that come out. If you, blow up an asteroid, it could end up turning into a ton of smaller fragments that end up hitting the Earth. Now, after movies like Greenland, a lot of people, when Hollywood films kind of make a vision of this or something that we can physically see, it definitely puts us in the back of our head, and we start thinking about things like this. And a lot of people, since Greenland, and people thought Greenland was like predictive programming down to the T, because there was all sorts of weird things that coincided with that movie. Of course, our previous president said that he wanted to buy Greenland. I mean, just weird stuff like, is Greenland going to be one of these areas that is not affected by some unknown asteroid that they know about and they're not telling us? It says these objects are hurtling through space and have one of the course scarred the moon, and over time also on Earth have had major impacts, have affected our history. Thomas Zurbuchen, NASA's Associate Administrator for Science, said during a news conference. Dex.
Well, the one movie that comes to my mind is Armageddon. That's the one. Is that Bruce Willis? Yeah, that's where they get really crazy about drilling in and launching nukes into the surface of the asteroids, right?
Yes, and that is actually the one that I misspoke. That is the one where they land on the asteroid, they drill a hole, and then of course Bruce Willis is the hero and sacrifices his own self to flip the switch or whatever and destroy it. But that is one of the plans. There's been many over the years, but just recently in the last 5 years, more so even the last 4 years, 3 years, they have done all of these weird missions. Hayabusa, the OSIRIS-REx. This is the DART mission. All of these missions are regarding these asteroids. And then, of course, at the same exact time, you have people like Elon Musk and some of the richest people in the world, Charles Branson. You have, of course, Bronson or Branson, whatever it is, with Virgin Mobile or Virgin Air or whatever they call their thing. And then Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos, and all of these elite people trying to get rockets and essentially trying to design something to get to other planets. It makes you wonder. At the same time as this, they've been sending off DNA samples to the moon. In fact, they're sending a Noah's Ark of all of our seeds, samples, DNA samples of every single living species on Earth, even extinct species, and they're either putting them underground or they're sending them to the moon. These are things I've covered in just the recent past. So what the hell is going on? What are they doing this for? We talked about the Swedish Navy. I think it was the Swedish Navy. It might have been Norway or it might have been Norwegian. One of the navies over there they're basically putting all of their stuff underground in a crazy, 007 type tunnel. And you just have all these weird things going on. They have a government being built in space called Asgardia. I think that's right? Somebody corrected me. It was Asgardia. It is Asgardia, right, Dex? Do you remember?
Correct. Asgardia.
Yeah. Asgardia, which, when I think Asgardia, I think of Asgard in Thor. But they are doing all of the real paperwork and actually getting this approved by every government on the planet to basically have a separate government in space. And when people look that up, they go, oh, it's just kind of like one of those where you buy a name on a star thing, like anybody can be a citizen of Asgardia. But really, that's just on the lowest end. On the high end, you actually have some of the most elite people that some of them don't even have their name listed. There's a lot of names on there that essentially are above that. As Joe Rogan was just talking about, people think that Elon is the richest person. Elon actually has said that, Mr. Putin has more money than him. And recently, Joe Rogan went over with, I believe it was Shapiro, that's basically said that the royal oil families are actually richer than that they're in the trillionaires. He talked to somebody else about that and essentially was told that these royal families are so rich they don't have any kind of legal rule that makes them disclose their money. Think about having people, a single individual with $1 trillion, something like that, more GDP than the entire world. These are the secret people that are basically running everything and running the show. but most people don't talk about it. If something was to happen, it would seem like if they just told us 10 years ago, hey, there's an asteroid that's going to hit us in 2030, just hypothetically, you would go, okay, well, what if they did tell us 10 years ago an asteroid was going to hit, what actions would they then take? And then look at what has actually been happening, and all these actions are done under a hypothetical, well, in the future, this may happen. When anything in the government and in the world, how often, like fixing a pothole, how often do they fix things before it's broken? That's I guess, my point, and I think it's a good thinking point, because how often do they do this kind of stuff and spend this kind of big money unless there is something on the other side, unless there's some sort of gain out of it? A lot of people will say, oh, well, there's precious metals up there. And now Xi, of course, just announced the other day, we covered that they say that there's a really rare metal on the moon, and that's why they're going to be doing all these missions to the moon. But all of these countries are doing some sort of asteroid deflection test. They're all working together on stuff. It's just really weird. What do you think? Let me know. What if they did discover? Again, I still think back to Sunspot Observatory, which actually observes the sun. That shut down under suspicious activity. And the story that they ended up telling people, not too many believed, because what they basically said is this guy was running a ring of all this weird stuff, and he was by himself running this huge ring. And it was related to photos and photography that are really gross and nasty, but they came in with Blackhawks and Chinooks and all sorts of crazy stuff and SWAT teams, and then they closed down the whole area around. They closed the post office. They went to the post office to make sure that nothing was sent out. They went neighbor to neighbor, door to door. Why would they do that for one guy who's supposedly doing some computer stuff on this? Whereas that solar observatory, it was shut down for weeks on end. It was a ghost town all around it. And that observatory was not the only one that was rumored to be closed down. They said upwards of 6 were closed down at the same time. There's, of course, rumors and theories floating around, but they do say that if any asteroid was really going to be the most dangerous, is one from the sun's direction that we wouldn't be able to see. Or if by the time we saw it, it would be too late. What if that solar observatory saw that and they said, whoa, we got to clamp this down. We can't let anybody know. There would be panic all over Earth. There would be rioting. Everything would be absolutely nuts. And then after that event, a lot of weird stuff happened. We went through CV, where basically the whole world was able to lock down and communicate and all work together under one kind of umbrella, which is really weird considering how much we all fight. Somehow every country came together to do something. It still boggles my mind what they were able to do under what happened, right? And considering, how bad it was compared to how bad, in the idea of something like that happening would be. What do you guys think? Do you think that there is some sort of odd thing going on here? Dex, I've talked about this since you just watched my show. I have talked about this for a long time. I have also talked about Apophis, like how they said Apophis was they basically said it was a very good chance it was going to hit in 2029, but then they said, oh, well, we redid the numbers and it's not going to hit, and actually we're totally safe. And then they also said it may hit in 2036, and then they said, oh, no, the numbers were wrong, and the numbers changed a little bit. What do you think about that, Dex?
Well, at the end of the day, it's inevitable. It's one of those things we know will happen. We just don't know when. And we also know that if they, and when I say they, I mean the powers that be, know when it's going to happen, they ain't going to tell us. So we're still not going to know. That's sort of the crazy part about this. I think the one thing, somebody said, so what do we do about it? I think, the only thing you can do about it is, pay attention to it, understand it. And also, this is yet another reason to do things like prepare, because it doesn't mean that, if an asteroid were to strike, just one, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world and all civilization. It could just mean a very bad time on the planet for a lot of people. Obviously, if you're in the path of it, that may be over for you. So maybe, being right with yourself spiritually and that kind of stuff. But, ultimately, this is one of the many reasons, whether it's, a hurricane or, a tsunami or or some sort of major conflict, there's lots of reasons why you should be prepared for the unknown. And this is one of those potentials that, pay attention to, be aware of it, and know what you're doing as far as, making sure you're prepared for whatever may come.
And somebody will, what do you do with it? Or somebody will say, oh, well, I'm not going to worry if it hits, we're all gone. Yeah, that's true. But if it does, if it's hit or the infrastructure goes down and we don't have any power because it hits in one area, but it just completely screws up all infrastructure, people would still be alive. There would still be plenty of chances for survival. It would just be that the entire system breaks down. In the event of an entire system breakdown where we don't have power, we don't have potable, drinkable water, that is what we kind of talk about. And there's multiple reasons that could come. And most of us just don't want to think about that kind of stuff. This show is really something that's really voluntary, and for those people that this is what they're doing anyways. The internet has done one thing, and that's if pretty much no matter what you are into, you can find something you can relate to. People watch this content, like my content. People that don't like this content have a problem with this kind of content. And the reason why is they think, oh, it's scary. It's scaring people. Most of the people here are going to, they're going to go around any kind of obstacles to find this information and to prepare for it, because this is our passion. This is our hobby. This is what we look at. And for whatever reason, it might be one reason from childhood all the way up to, something woke you up in lifetime, that this is what you like watching. And that is you're an adult. You're allowed to do that. One thing I've never got is why people that don't like a content say other people shouldn't watch it either. That's not right. That's just not, you can find everything and anything you like. I personally think, and I don't think I'm crazy, I personally think that many people just want to just keep plugging their ears and say it's never going to happen, la, 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 la. When we have already seen, before CV happened, 5 months, 6 months before, we said it looks like they're preparing for a huge, some sort of, thing getting released, or, an outbreak of some sort. I said, look at all these drills. Look at this exercise. It's absolutely creepy. And guess what? Afterwards, not only did it happen, but that exercise almost exactly replicated what happened in real life. So this is why we pay attention. Why are they drilling for an asteroid? Why are they doing all these exercises? Why did New York just do an asteroid evacuation simulation? You have to look at these things because, you got to get past that whole, it's never going to happen on my street. It's never going to happen to me. If you do, you'll be less afraid. If it hits and smacks Earth and we're all gone, then I guess your prep would just be good with God and be spiritually good. Repent every day. Whatever way you want to prepare for it. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see what ends up being said about this. And then scientists say it's extremely unlikely that asteroid is alien ship, despite U.S. professors' claim. So this is Xi's country basically talking about Oumuamua, and it says that scientists in Xi's country say it's very unlikely that the oblong Oumuamua asteroid that zipped into our solar system is an alien spacecraft, despite the claims of a controversial Harvard professor to the contrary. It says the first known interstellar object to visit our solar system, which is somewhere between 300 and 3,000 feet in length, was first observed in October of 2017 by the University of Hawaii's Pan-STARRS telescope and caused quite a stir. It says that astronomers were baffled by it. Some said it was a comet, and others claimed it was an alien spacecraft or a remnant of a Pluto-like planet. Harvard physicist Avi Loeb wrote in his 2021 study of the object's potential origins, each of these natural origin models has major quantitative shortcomings, and so the possibility of an artificial origin for Oumuamua must be considered. Now, if you're not familiar with Oumuamua, it was the cigar-shaped, it honestly looked like a giant, dog dropping, the thing that everybody showed all over the news. And that thing came from outside of our solar system, and it came in, it was interstellar, and it swooped by. It actually came close to Earth if you're looking at the whole solar system, and it swooped by after it kind of aligned with Earth, and then it sped up and left. So it actually, its trajectory slowed down and then sped up afterwards. That alone should be common sense, like questions should be asked. Or at least you couldn't rule out that it's some sort of natural thing, but they had an explanation for that. They said it was kind of a slingshot thing or this or that. The thing, if you look at the actual, what they say is what it did, it is absolutely spooky. The thing comes in and you see all the planets going around, and then when it comes right by Earth, it just goes like this and goes phew, and zips out of there. It's insane. It's crazy to even think about that might have been something, right? A new peer-reviewed study by a group of Xi scientists, though, analyzed the data we have about Oumuamua to poke holes in Loeb's claim about such an alien craft could be moving through space. This is exactly what I was talking about. I mean, this is an artist rendering of what it looks like. So they don't have any they have pictures of it, but it doesn't look anything like, something that, the pictures look like this, right? So very, very weird thing. Just odd as hell. It says, in order for the rocky cigar-shaped object that zoomed past the sun at 196,000 miles per hour to be an alien ship, it might need to be pushed forward by some type of extremely thin light sail that captures particles from stars. So one problem with their thinking, though, is that the fact that what if it's a technology that we don't know about yet, or a whole, scientific basis that doesn't even exist in our world because we don't know about it. It says the scientists wrote in the papers that has been accepted publication in the journal Astronomy and Astrophysics that the dynamics of an intruding light sail, if it exists, has a distinct observational signature, which can be quantitatively identified and analyzed with our methods in future surveys. It says, we conclude that the possibility of Oumuamua being a light sail is extremely unlikely, Shangfei Liu, an astronomer, says. So basically they're saying, oh, well, the only way it could go that fast is a light sail, so it can't be that because it doesn't look like it has a light sail. That's assuming that they know what technology it's using to go. Dex, it sounds like they're just trying to, be skeptics on it. I always just thought it was really weird. I don't necessarily think it was an alien, but I do think it was very odd that we had our first interstellar object, and then now all of a sudden we have 3, just not only in our lifetime, but in the last decade.
Well, yeah, and is this just a piece to sort of distract us away from it and say, oh, don't worry, it's not really what these other scientists are trying to prove? It'll be interesting if they can prove that it is, some sort of tech. I think, what was it, Avi Loeb said, if he found a button on it, he wants to push it. I don't know that I would go pushing random buttons, but I don't even know that that's what he's going to find. But they're literally sweeping the floor with these high-end magnets trying to find it, the floor of the ocean, and to try to find this thing. Well,
and not to confuse anything, before Oumuamua happened, years before, and I want to say it was 2014 or another one hit, and it was basically an asteroid that hit, and they knew kind of the general area where it hit, and they ended up finding out through the math, they thought it may have actually come from outside the solar system. There was a government wall up against the data, and the government that listed all the data did not list how accurate it was or what the level was. So when back then, when they were like undergraduates at Harvard, they wrote this paper and it couldn't be confirmed, and the school, they couldn't like give it their awards or whatever it was because they didn't have the confirmation on the data. Well, years later, after writing I think they did a Freedom of Information Act or something, they actually got a response, and they said this is accurate, and they confirmed that was actually the first interstellar object that we know of, and that landed. So now Avi Loeb, and we've covered this, they have boats out there and submarines, and they're going and they're fishing the bottom of the ocean for any part of this, and he thinks they're going to find some sort of alien technology. And then, of course, all of this other news or supposed news telling us that we are about to see aliens in our lifetime, or that it's very likely that we'll find out about life on other planets. I understand that not everybody's going to agree with that, but again, this is what our world is saying. This is what is accepted. This is what people are talking about at the water cooler as a fact. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy times we are in. I mean, among all of the other things that are going on, I mean, I don't even want to list some of the gross and nasty things that are going on right now, but you guys get my meaning. So, thank you everybody over on DLive. I appreciate that. Thank you, Vicky K. Thank you, Texas Rob. Always nice to see you here. Still in San Francisco, goofing off. Much love to everyone. Hey, Texas Rob. I hope you have fun there. Obviously, a whole lot different than Texas. And then much love, Adam, Dex, and Fam from San Francisco. Vault 11 stores in my area are really empty. Are they for you guys? So Vault 11 says stores in his area are empty, and asking if anybody else has had that lately. My head went to about 3 or 4 different places, because there's about 3 or 4 places, but those are places that have stuff from G's country. A lot of the places that sell stuff from G's country are like empty right now, and that's because they shut down the electronics market, the main hub in Shenzhen. They shut down all sorts of stuff. And then let's see here, a Vladian asset just followed. And then a Baden just followed. Thank you so much. Bear Lover 92,000. And then, of course, Vicky K and Grace for you. Grace for you, too. Thank you so much for your support. And then how safe is your data with a tap-and-go subway payments? Dex, do you want to touch on this? This is essentially all the new stuff, especially there in New York City.
Yeah. If you're living in New York City, you're going to think that this is really convenient, but wake up, because we're really on the verge of getting closer to that social credit capability. So they're launching, or not launching, they're sort of pushing, completely moving their system only to the Omni payment. And that's this new digital payment that they have, where you can get a card, but more importantly, you can use your phone, you can use your watch, you can use your credit cards to tap to pay. All of that tap to pay technology is how you can get on the subway now. And when you think about it, they talk about, they give away the data to the law enforcement there, especially when they're investigating things. They've used it to determine alibis. They've used it to track, criminals, or look at the behavior or what they've done. And a lot of the privacy experts think that that's kind of a bad thing. And I kind of agree, that having all this extra data now tracking everyone, while, everyone else is running around thinking, oh, this is just so convenient. I can just swipe my phone and jump on the train, which that does feel very convenient. But at what price does that come? The other interesting fact here is they talk to some of the police officers there, and they said, of the people that we're usually tracking, we're tracking them on camera because they don't actually pay. They jump turnstiles. The criminals don't pay to get on the subway. They just jump over them and keep going. So, at the end of the day, it sounds like the rest of the citizens are going to be tracked while the criminals are not. So again, this is just one of those things that is, we've seen the writing on the wall. We look over in G's land and go, wow, we'd never want that to be the way it is here. But wake up, it's slowly rolling out everywhere we turn. We see more and more of this trackable technology, and that data being used, and especially with law enforcement, and then potentially other entities that'll have access to it as well.
And now, so many of the stores, they're putting in these cattle gates, and that's the best kind of description I could say about them. I would love to hear from you guys. Is this only happening where I am? I know that it's happening in a lot of Walmarts and things, but now I'm seeing them in other stores like Fred Meyer's and in Targets. What they're doing is they're putting in these gates at the entrance of grocery stores, at the entrance of Walmart's and Fred Meyer's, and even clothing stores, where you walk up and it just like a motion sensor, on a sliding door. This is actually a gate that opens up. Have any of you seen that yet? Do you have that in your city? And I bet if you haven't seen this, you'll be surprised by how many people have seen this. And then if you go out the store, if you go out the wrong exit, so instead of in Walmart, for example, you go in, it opens up all nice and great for you. On the way out, it does an alarm. It goes beep, 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 and it does red and it does not open back up. And what that is so you go back through the line. Even if you didn't buy anything, you have to go around and go through the line, and then they check your receipt, right? They're doing the flow of traffic. Now, most people see that and they're like, well, that's because they don't want people to steal or to walk back out. Think about that. They're controlling everywhere you go, and you're going to, and they have a giant big screen TV saying you're on camera, and then that camera doesn't show you, but their back end has facial recognition already. Like every single face, it boxes and zooms in on automatically. At least some of them are. The same technology is being used at the self-checkout. Every time you go to self-checkout, and this goes so much deeper because everybody's like, what about when people were wearing masks? They came out with the technology to be able to identify people just by their eyes, even if they're wearing a mask. Dex and I covered this. There was actual technology that it didn't matter if you were wearing a mask. If they could have any part of your face, the computer and the AI could restructure the rest of what it looks like, and they would be able to figure out who you are within a certain reason. It wasn't 100% yet, but that's where it's going. And now with phones and all these records that we know are being shared all over with all of these agencies, these facial recognition things, we basically gave them our info when you did your iris scan or your face recognition unlock or your fingerprint on your phone, or of course all of the different biometrics that you've given away. Right now, it is not horrible, but it is going to get to the point. Think about this. Say you didn't pay your bills, or say you owe the IRS, and when you go to the store, they're saying, hey, you can't walk in yet, or it will give you an alert and it'll say, hey, you can only buy groceries here today. You can't buy anything fun. You can't buy a bicycle because you owe us. You should be buying that. Or if that you won't be able to take any kind of public transportation. This may sound like just a crazy way over the top thing, but they're already doing it in Xi's country, and they're already setting it up in ours. They have already talked about it in Canada. Canada's government websites have told businesses to get ready for a social credit score. Think about if you post something online. Look at what's happening with our president, saying that anybody over on One Direction is essentially an enemy of the state. This is crazy stuff. Let's see here. Paul Stanzi, what's going on? Mr. Streets, Nana Deborah is here. Walmart in Minnesota took them down. Well, that is an amazing thing. It's rare that they do these dystopian moves and then undo them. Let's see here. Somebody says, wait a minute, it could just be a gate. Now, these gates, and by the way, they're getting crazy. The new one at Fred Meyer, it's like a turnstile that you would go at the subway, just like this. And it is about 5 feet high. I mean, you have to climb it like a fence to get through. And they made it so you can't even fit through sideways if you don't have it open. They're treating us like cattle. We're going to our troughs. Like when you go to self-checkout and do all this stuff for yourself, I mean, we're not even customers anymore. We're just cattle that are going to get our vegetables from the trough. I mean, this is getting insane. And then Amtrak cancels all long-distance trains ahead of a potential strike. What in the heck? So, Dex, I don't get why they're already doing it like it's going to be a strike. Why wouldn't they keep all of this running up until the second it happens?
Well, I think just like we talked about them stopping the receiving of hazardous material and sensitive equipment, sensitive material, they don't want it stuck on the line. So they're looking at, trains that are going, long distance where they're over multiple day trips, and they don't want to have, these passengers be on trips that go across the strike date, which is Friday, because if it happens, they're going to get stuck wherever they are. So I think that's the intent, at least. And we've seen this start to happen this week, where like we said, other things are starting to not be picked up because they don't want to get it stuck in the middle of the transit.
So when something comes from if we're importing stuff from almost any country, it comes to our ports. Main ones on the West Coast or on the East Coast, those things come into the port and then they're offloaded. And I don't know what percent, but all of the ports have a train track there, or multiple train tracks. Not many people realize how much actually moves by train, but train is one of the few ways to move just absolute crazy weight, heavy loads, and to move it across the country and almost anywhere, right? When you have this happening and they're canceling things and they're doing this, if this happens, things are going to get really bad. Even if it's temporary, it will affect us, and it will affect your pocket. It will affect almost everything. Dex, if this actually happens, I wonder if we can look and get, for tomorrow's show, get some data of what would be worst case scenario if they, did a strike and it lasted months.
We may have some of that in the next article. I don't know about what the effects are for lasting months. But if this happens, inflation is going to go high immediately, just because of the fact that the massive amount of cargo that's moved, and it'll come to a halt. That may not be, the same as, say, shipping a package from a store out of a warehouse that's going to come to your house that's going, like UPS or something like that. That usually goes on trucks. That stuff usually goes, in the air and then gets delivered locally. It's the massive amount of cargo that gets moved on these trains. And, a lot of this stuff comes in from a port. It may hit a truck at that port, or it may get loaded onto trains, and they use the trains to move it cross country and then get redistributed onto trucks for local distribution. So and it's not, think about coal, think about, chemicals and all of the stuff that in these huge mass quantities are moved by rail that go to factories or go to plants to power them. All of that stuff is just going to come to a halt. So, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And I think you've got time now if you want to, make sure your cupboard is stocked. You've got time now. You probably even have time right at the date that it happens. But I can imagine that right after this happens, if as word gets out over the weekend, if it truly happens, you're probably going to see a lot of people start grabbing stuff off the shelves, just because they know. And again, I don't think it's the local bread factories distribution, but it may be the massive quantities of flour that come in off of rail cars or things like that,
or
that
milk
slow
or
down.
dairy.
So they'll have a little bit. But then it'll dwindle down and they'll have nothing.
Yeah, you'll be able to get your local dairy, your local farm's milk brand, but maybe the Lucerne or one that's being shipped all over the country in these huge train, containers that are full of milk or full of fuel or full of this or full of that. All of those things are going to stop. And I don't think we realize how much of that we actually consume until we do. It's not like everybody here is able to buy, 360 from grown and made from 5 miles around them in all directions. That was one of the rules to be self-sustainable, is to eat and buy all your food from within 5 miles of your home. I bet you there's probably 1% doing that.
Yeah, but even that, even if you're buying milk from a local dairy farm, that local dairy farm is buying products in mass quantity to feed those cows, yep, right? Or to feed that. So it'll have a trickle effect. And then let's also not forget there are plenty of large cities, Chicago being one, the Bay Area being another with Caltrain, that have these train systems that everyone uses to commute from one major town to another. A lot of people live in one area but ride a train in, and a lot of that, and especially in New England area, there's a lot of train travel between the states up there. So all of that will stop. So you've got a lot of things that are going to happen when the strike goes down. That's going to affect everything from transportation of people to transportation of the goods we need to transportation of all these massive commodities that are used to fuel industries and fuel the food that's made and fuel the energy that's produced at plants and et cetera. So yeah, big deal, very big deal. Get ready.
And that's just our advice. You don't have to follow it. Obviously, if you already hear people talking about this outside your home or at work, then other people are going to be thinking the same thing. If you saw during CV when everybody, had 3-mile lines to Costco and things like this, I bet you, especially this weekend, whether this happens or not, people are going to try to go out and line up and do that whole normal rigmarole, but it will be, times 4. Ladybug, thank you again for being awesome, and thank you for supporting yesterday. Seeking Truth, Stiletto Czar, thank you so much. Zen1AZ, Justin True, Stephanie Montgomery, O Cummings 08, Seeking Truth, Be Real Beast, Kenny Crowder, Carol McLean, Linda McDaniel, LAPD SWAT, Donnie Ray, Mir 504, and of course Joseph Collins. Thank you everybody that supported, including Meat Puppet 007. Dex, go ahead.
Well, Adam, I just want to make sure that people do understand there is a potential silver lining here and we've covered this before. There is the opportunity for an act from Congress and from the president and the administration to do certain things to stop this, right? Or do certain things to alleviate this, because this is a major piece of infrastructure and they actually have the control to do that. So to the extent that you trust and feel that they would actually act quickly, and they're saying they are, but to the extent that you think they can pull that off, then that's your silver lining. To the extent that you don't think they're going to pull that off, then maybe that's, reason to keep worrying.
And just to highlight this other piece here that's related, again, we don't have all of the data of what, worst case scenario would be, but this essentially shows how it would affect the car makers and car manufacturers. A lot of them are shipped by train. It says car buyers might not get the vehicle they want on time. Commuter rail lines could see service disrupted, and shipments from everything from oil to livestock could be snarled. It says these are just few of the wide-ranging impacts a walkout by U.S. rail workers would have on the country's industries and economy. A strike could happen if the railroads' unions can't settle their differences before an early Friday walkout deadline. It says nearly all new vehicles that travel more than a couple hundred miles from the factory to their destination are shipped by rail because it is more efficient, said Michael Robinet, an executive director for S&P Global Mobility. So almost a certainty that all new vehicles coming to the U.S. from Mexico or other countries will be delayed. Again, if there's probably some folks here that are looking at buying new cars, if you go to the dealership and they don't have the model you want there, I highly recommend, if they say, but we can get it and it's coming next Friday or whatever, I would ask questions about this specifically, because I know there's probably people out there that are probably in the hunt for a new car and they want that new one with an extra feature or whatever. I would make sure to ask about this, and don't let a car salesman tell you that, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Oh, it won't be affected by that. Ask and let them know, because a lot of people that buy new cars end up buying one that they don't have there, and they'll have it shipped in, or they'll get it next Friday and they'll get a loaner until then. You might have a loaner for months. So I'd highly recommend you ask questions about this. But it doesn't just work with cars. This is with a ton of stuff. Anything you can think of that is heavy, that is more efficient to ship by rail, they do it. Anything that is cheaper, they will do for their bottom line. So it's a big deal. Pay attention to it. And again, if you're new here and this is your first episode, if you want to follow this whole debacle, make sure to hit that subscribe button in the lower right. Again, that red button or white button or gray button, whatever it is, make sure to hit it and then press all notifications. The little bell, if it's on custom, then it just basically tells you when it thinks that you want to see my video. So if the title is, cars, all cars stopped, and you type in, I'm searching for a car, then it might recommend my video. But again, it's basing it on your search stuff. So if you want to get every notification from us, make sure to press that all button on the bell. All right, and then before we move on, we're going to talk about who is this mystery woman next to Kim Jong-un. I do want to remind everybody, if you do want to get stocked up and you have the ability, if you have, again, the financial ability to go out and get some stuff, I highly recommend this. This is marfooglenews.com/prep. They have basically essentially 3-day kits, 1-month kits, and 3-month kits of freeze-dried MREs packaged, basically all set up for you so you don't have to do any thinking. You basically have a schedule of food for 3 months for one person with those plans. Again, this is all powered by My Patriot Supply. Now, with this is really cool because you can get upwards of $250 off if you do end up getting a 3-month supply. And definitely make sure to think about it as far as if you do get, say, a 1-month supply or a 3-month supply, that 1 month could be 2 weeks for 2 people. Or if you have 4 people, that's a week of food for 4 people, and so on. You can, if you have 3 months, that's a month and a half or 45 days for 2 people, and so on. So it is, you can look at it like that as well. They're basically packaged up, and freeze-dried food is, in my opinion, better than dehydrated because it has a super long shelf life of 25 plus shelf years, and it has most of its flavor. What they do in freeze drying is they take out every molecule of moisture out of that food. And the great part is it keeps most of its flavor. Once you put the water back, or you cook it in water, or you cook it in sauce, then it brings all that life back and it reabsorbs. And there's a whole lot of things that are almost like you just bought them from the store. Again, how I was introduced to this is I ate a 7-year-old meal out of somebody's cupboard, and it was just like buying something from the store. It was really, 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 really good. So go to marfooglenews.com/prep. It is based on a diet of 2,000 calories per day. Basically, it will keep you going and keep you safe. But they have all sorts of other stuff there. They have gadgets. They have all sorts of things. If you're into the gadgets or the everyday carry stuff, they have all sorts of things there like flashlights, power banks, little tiny solar devices, radios, and of course, their water filtration system. Again, Dex, go ahead.
And they don't ship by rail.
That's right. Yeah,
but I don't know how long it'll last, because if everybody goes, this is going to be like toilet paper again. If this goes down Friday, you guys get ready, because everybody's going to start running to buy stuff.
Yeah, and I would hope that most of you are already set on stuff like this because you've been watching the show for a long time. Most of our viewers have been here with us for years. A lot of you said thank you and said that they were good through CV when all of the shelves were bare, because we kept reminding you guys that something was going on, that if you look at the actions of our government and the Department of Homeland Security and DOD, and if you look at all these things that they're publicly putting out there that they just brush off and push under the carpet until next year, there are a lot of warnings out there. So this is something that is just being responsible. It's basically having an insurance policy for your food and for your water. All right, and you get a discount, and you're helping us grow and expand. We would love to bring on more people. You guys can help us do that at the same time, get something out of it, and get a discount. So nobody gets hurt by that. Dex, do you want to talk about this mystery woman next to Kim Jong?
Yeah, so everybody's wondering who she is. Some are suggesting she may be a half sister, but apparently she's been seen multiple times now carrying an attaché or a case around him. Seen, I think there's some pictures, so if you want to see what she looks like. But yeah, she's seen in multiple pictures, multiple videos where she's following close. She's very close to him, within sort of his entourage, if you want to use that term. And she's sort of the new mystery woman. Everybody's wondering who she is and what role she's playing, because she's now appearing multiple times.
And I saw some comments like maybe it's his new girlfriend. I don't think so. If you've heard some of the stuff that's come out of Dennis Rodman and what they do, they have he just snatches random women from his country. He basically, it's pretty messed up there. But I wonder if that's some sort of nuclear, football case kind of thing. Do you think that could be a possibility, that case is some sort of launch codes or something after this new law that passed there, or the new bill?
Yeah, I don't know if it looks that secure, but maybe, who knows?
The Michael Kors nuke box there. Counterfeit Michael Kors or counterfeit Louis Vuitton, whatever it is. Is it somebody that's and where is his sister in all these pictures? Where is his sister who's been talking this whole time? Where is she at? It's kind of odd. But it does say, well, actually, it says a defector, NK defector who claims to have worked as a party secretary in Kim's government told NK News he had Kim Sol-song in the flesh multiple times. It says that the U.S.-based outlet claimed the description he gave of her closely matches the mystery woman pictured in the state media images, but the relationship has not been officially confirmed. It says if the woman in question is in fact Kim Sol-song, she brings a wealth of experience to her role, having served her father, the former leader Kim Jong-il, as an event director before his death in 2011. So we'll see who it is. Obviously, if any kind of person pops up in his circle, they want to know who it is. All right, and then we just talked about this in the ejector seats that happened. And now we have an F-16 pilot who perished when his ejection seat failed. Was it counterfeit? It says an Air Force investigation of a fatal fighter crash in 2020 quietly discovered that key components of the pilot's ejection seat may have been counterfeit, Air Force Times has learned. First Lieutenant David Schmitz, an F-16 fighting Falcon pilot out South Carolina's Shaw Air Force Base, perished June 30th, 2020, when his ejection seat malfunctioned as he tried to escape from a failed nighttime landing. He was 32 years old. It says the Air Force's official inquiry into the months following the accident found that the electronics inside the seat were scratched, unevenly sanded, and showed otherwise shoddy craftsmanship. It says that raised flags at the Air Force Research Laboratory, which called for a closer look to confirm whether the pieces were fraudulent. According to the previously unreported slides providing that the Air Force Times, it says it's unclear whether that question was ever answered. Remember, we covered that the government found out that a bunch of these ejection seats or the fluid that was in it or whatever, something was done in Xi's country. And for a time, they actually halted things. They grounded a few. They did all sorts of other stuff. And now we see an actual person that may have died because of it. It says, while the Air Force suspected parts of the seat were counterfeit, it buried the information in a non-public section of its accident investigation report. Those details have come to light in a federal civil lawsuit filed by Schmidt's widow, Valerie, who is suing 3 defense companies for negligence and misleading the Air Force about the safety of their products. It says what the military does is inherently dangerous to begin with. Plaintiff attorney Jim Boschee said, if you're going to be engaging in that kind of activity, you want to be doing it with equipment that's going to work. So, and why when they see counterfeit, are they saying that they hired somebody to do it and they put something, a fake one or a cheap one in there, or what?
That's what it sounds like to me. So this, we talked about, now these are F-16s, and this is obviously an older story in the sense of when it happened. The story is current as of today and the information coming out. But, this is no different than, the metal that they found in F-35s, or even more importantly in F-35s. It's a totally different plane, but that was more recent. We talked about the ejection charge, and it wasn't that it was faulty. It's just that it was missing. Like there was they shipped them out and they were flying planes and had no charge in the seat that would then boost the pilot out when the ejection process happens. So all of these things are things you would not expect to see in these production, especially for as much money as we spend. These are not low budget. These are not the least lowest bidder. These are usually one of the highest bidders. And you expect to pay, when we pay millions and millions of dollars for an aircraft, that along with that goes a very heavy amount of quality control. And we don't need, to have errors in this type of equipment, or missing components, or in this case, counterfeit, as they would call it, components that, cost the lives of our soldiers.
No, and we'll see what happens in that widow, Valerie. We'll see what she's probably going to end up getting. She's probably going to be living comfortably after this. Let's see here. Thank you, SAC909. I appreciate that. The Newts SAC909. Appreciate your support there. Shout out Bear Claws. Much love. Hey, End Times. Thanks for popping in. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And where's Cha Money at? Is he okay? How's he doing? Is he still streaming? I have not gotten much time to be on D-Live lately. And then Stiletto Czar, thank you. Ladybug, and Canine Therapy Incorporated says, I am wondering if VPNs do good anymore for privacy. I keep hearing about people like Mike Lindell having his encrypted cell phone messages unencrypted. So Mike Lindell actually got, they said raided, and everybody keeps saying raid. I agree with you, Dex. It's less of a raid and more of like they snatched him up at a Hardee's restaurant and they ended up taking his phone. I don't know. So I think that VPNs are more against regular people. That's how I think about it, like as far as regular hackers. Well, the government, though, yeah, I don't know if the government can probably do anything they want, but VPNs definitely make it a whole lot harder, and it can protect against a lot of governments, especially the governments that don't have the kind of stuff that the U.S. has. There's smaller governments that are all over the place trying to hack people. We know this for a fact. All sorts of things happen on a daily basis, especially when you are online like this. Dex?
Yeah, a VPN is gonna secure the information between 2 points when you're talking, like when you're trying to communicate to another destination, whether you're surfing online or you're sending email. At least between the connection of your computer and that VPN service, everything is secured so that it can't be intercepted by hackers and broken down. In the case of your cell phone, the data stored on it may or may not be protected depending on the cell phone and how it works. But rest assured, the government, for the most part, can get into that. If they can't get into it remotely, then they pull you over to Hardee's and they take the phone, and even if you have it encrypted, then they break the phone apart into pieces and use special software to then get into the components so that they can then get to the data and then decrypt it and read it.
And by the way, they might not they haven't like announced they found anything bad on his phone. I would assume by now that anyone that is close to our previous president is probably thinking backwards and thinking, is there anything that could be messed up right now? Do we have anything that could be slightly considered criminal or this or that? If they're not, then they're dumb, because they're going after everybody close to the former president, everyone. And the fact that the pillow guy is getting his phone taken at a Hardee's restaurant, which, by the way, I keep thinking, like, the guy is at a Hardee's. Isn't Hardee's like a fast food joint? Isn't that like a hamburger joint? I don't think we have them here.
You have probably the other one that's the same thing. It's called Carl's Jr.
Yeah. Okay, we have
they're
Carl's
the same
Jr.
company, just two different names.
Yeah, so he's at like a Carl's Jr. or Hardee's, and they find him at a drive-thru or something. They hunted him down. This is insanity. Do you guys realize what is happening right now? It's not good. It's not good at all. Even if you are on the other side of the aisle, you should be like, this is scary. Because you have to understand, if that happens, there's going to be a whole lot of people that are very pissed off. I just wonder what... And if they grabbed his phone and they did it mobile, like, if the government has the ability to do what we know they can do, then they knew something was done. Like, maybe they waited and the CIA or NSA watched him do something, and then they physically grabbed it real quick. Well, they could. Even if it's I guess it's kind of two different things. But yeah. We're in a whole lot of crap. American Collector, nice to see you, and thank you for joining the Mafia. Thank you for subscribing. And then Omnipresent Trollins, thank you. What's going on? Let's see here. Joseph Newhouse planning video about the real Stone of Destiny. I can't wait. Hopefully you have lots of great info about it. Joseph, thank you for your support. And then Canine Therapy. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of uses for VPNs, but to be honest, I think that the CIA or NSA, they already have all of our stuff. There's probably ways around all of it. But again, I think that you don't want to make it easy for them. For regular people and regular hackers, that's another story, though. That's a really good thing. The U.S. has given UKR nearly 1 million 155 millimeter artillery shells. Now, I'm going to go over this and the other. So they're basically debating sending jets. Now, if you remember, we covered this. This is a big red line. This would be us sending our jets to UKR. It says that Washington and its allies, NATO and everything else, is discussing possible transfer of fighter jets to UKR. Essentially, all of our gear and all of the UK and every other big military, they're sending in all of the equipment, just having UKR people man these things. It's like it's our gear versus Vlad, right? And it says the senior U.S. defense official said that Washington and its allies were discussing UKR's longer-term needs, such as air defenses, and whether it might be appropriate to give them Kiev fighter aircraft in the medium to long term. To date, the United States and its allies have declined to do so. At the same time, some Western officials have been emboldened by UKR's progress, saying that recent advances have bolstered the case for NATO countries and partners to provide it with lethal aid. So if you remember, the whole big thing is we're not going to help them, damage or do stuff. We were just helping them defensively. Now, if we give them some high-tech jets, they're going to fly in and they're going to go over the line. I mean, this is a big kind of line, and it's setting up this whole thing. Now they're saying that Vlad's losing, that he's, curling up his tail. He's running for the hills. At the same time, we covered just a couple days ago, he snatched up all of the regular women and children and civilians, and they said that he kidnapped them and took them back to his own country. Sounds to me like he's possibly taking them out of there so he doesn't have collateral damage when they launch something in there. It seems to me like they're setting up to let us know that a tactical nuke hits UKR or something. That's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, them sending jets, and then of course we alone have given them over 1 million 155 millimeter artillery shells. And that's a huge chunk of our own arsenal. So now we don't have that.
Well, yeah, and if we're to believe what they're reporting, and the reports are that UKR is winning, and Vlad is losing. It's not because UKR did it on their own. It's obvious the equipment, it's obvious everything that we're sending in, it's obvious all the technology that's going in, and yet this will be just yet another, whether it's, sending in these planes or all of the artillery shells we have sent in, which has now depleted our own supply. And now we're, of course, scrambling to replace them ourselves, right?
So at this point, if they do end up officially winning, it's going to be like Vlad's going to go, this was a conflict against NATO, and NATO stepped in and beat us. And if they do get completely humiliated, I wonder what the actual escalation of that would be. Now the public thinks, oh, Vlad didn't have a force. They are just they're nobodies now, that they don't. I've seen so many comments like, oh, their backwoods equipment couldn't do it, and they can't even beat UKR. You're talking about every major NATO country has sent in the most advanced gear and used their satellites, used their stuff to fight this conflict with them. And meanwhile, you hear from Vlad's side, from their actual media, saying that they are sending in conscripts, people they grabbed off the street with 100-year-old rifles, and they're throwing all their garbage in first. We also heard that story of them sending a line of, 40 miles of tanks, and UKR was able just to go down the line and drop things on them. It just doesn't make sense. Something here is not right. Why would they do that? I understand that there's tanks are harder to go through mud or this or that, so they were using the one street. But there was all sorts of stories that just ended up being completely different just a week later. Look at the Snake Island thing and how that ended up turning out. All of them bravely gave their life and said, "F you, Vlad," and all of them, perished, right? And then a couple weeks later, they're like, "Oh, they're all safe," and actually they gave up really quickly. The Ghost of Kiev, all of these different stories and things that happened in the beginning, people forget about this stuff. We archive it. I think that there's something bigger in the way, and I will get to that in a minute. All of Congress just stepped in the room with the head of the CIA. For what reason? What was this secret meeting about? Is there some sort of big escalation coming? Are they updating everybody on the information they just gathered? That's what I want to know. So we'll see. And and we'll talk about it here in just a second. And then we'll talk about UKR astronomers observe bizarre unidentified aerial phenomena over Kiev. Weird stuff. But first of all, I just want to remind you guys, if you do want to back yourself as far as power goes, not only can you go over and check out the Flex, I do want to explain. A couple people had questions. So they just released the Kodiak X2. This is essentially their entry into the market to compete with all of the other all-in-one systems. Most of what was out there is these boxes that the battery is built in. The great thing about the Flex is what we've been talking about for the longest time is it's modular. You can add batteries. If you want to start out with 1, get 2, 3, 4, up to 96, you can. That's this system. The new system is an all-in-one. You can only link 2, and that's actually probably all you'll need. If you get 1, you can do 1,200 watts. If you do 2, you can actually do 2,400 watts output as far as very, very, very power-hungry devices like RV air conditioners, microwaves, and other high-draw appliances. If you put 2 of these into an RV or something like that, you're going to basically be able to run anything you want. And even just 1 can run most power tools, all sorts of stuff. With 2, that is really the setup if you are doing van life stuff or RV stuff. And again, it's comparable to it's comparable to a lot about all of the positive features. But there's a lot of stuff that this can do that others can't. It charges faster than any other comparable system. With a 1,000-watt AC charge rate, you'll be able to access to portable backup power much faster, recharge your system from 0 to 100% in 75 minutes. That's an hour and 15 minutes to a full charged battery with AC power. The high-voltage solar input gives you access to clean, renewable energy so you can stay powered up no matter where you are. This thing is badass, and I will tell you right now, I want one. They're not shipping out until December. I don't know if I'll be. I put kind of all my eggs into the Flex, and now I have the Flex system. This has different purposes altogether. There are cons that basically, if any of those cons are a thing for you, then the Flex is for you. If the Flex is something that you have, any of the reasons why you wouldn't get a Flex, you would get this. So basically, they have now covered every part of this market with their super high quality solar generators. Again, this also offers 6,000 charge cycles. To put that into perspective, if you totally drained and recharged your battery once each day, the X2 would last about 16 years and still have 80% of its original capacity available. Think about that. In 16 years from now, using it every single day, you'll still have 80% of your battery capability because it is built in. That was the big thing with these built-ins, is that you couldn't replace and do all that. So it's again something that will last decades. So make sure to go check that one out. That's the new all-in-one. You don't have to worry about separate things. It's one box, and then you get your solar panels. It's plug and play, and it's charged, and then you have on-demand power. And that is actually a UPS, an uninterrupted power system. It switches in less than 10 milliseconds, so you can use that as well. Whereas the Flex is an EPS system, emergency power. It does it in about 30 milliseconds. All right, so make sure to go check that out. 0 to 100% in 75 minutes. That is insanity. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about UKR astronomers observed this bizarre thing above Kiev. This is yet another story about some sort of strange object, probably U.S. military.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting, just thinking about like all of the sightings that we've seen around our military bases or on our military ships. We've heard about drones, and sometimes they've said that they were drones, and sometimes they've called them UAPs. And in this particular instance, they're saying there were all these UAPs that were seen in the skies over this area in Kiev. So it's kind of interesting, wondering what technology may be being used there, or is something else happening there. So yeah, I don't think we'll ever really know, because this is probably going to end up in the classified buckets with all the other UAP information. But certainly people are paying attention, and certainly people are catching on to the fact that we're seeing more and more of this happening in different locations. It's not just here in the U.S. or not just with our ships that we had off the coast that this happened to. We're now seeing it in other locations. And then this being a conflict zone definitely adds more mystery to it.
And they're saying that just a couple things here. It says we see them everywhere. We see numerous objects of uncertain nature. And then it goes into the difference. Cosmics were defined as light-emitting objects. Phantoms, on the other hand, are black bodies which do not emit radiation, absorbing it instead. This makes them stand out against the background, easy to detect and gauge their distance. Both types of objects apparently move incredibly fast, making it exceptionally difficult to photograph them. The article said that the UAPs were detected flying both alone and in groups. It says the human eye cannot register phenomena that last less than 1/10 of a second. Ordinary cameras are also unable to make these detections. It takes specialized, finely tuned equipment. So they're saying even if you have a surveillance camera, some of these things can't be seen. So I didn't actually know that, and think about that in the perspective of what if people do put cameras out specifically to look for this kind of stuff, and if something is faster than the 1/10 of a second, then our human eye can't see it, and then that also means it would most of the cameras and their frame rate would not even be able to catch it. It wouldn't even be able to see a difference because it's across the frame so fast. So I thought that was pretty interesting. If you haven't followed the last few weeks of shows, there is an idea, there was kind of a couple statements made by the U.S. government that kind of imply that, hey, we would be busting on ourselves if we release a lot of this information, implying that a lot of these UFOs or UAPs are actually possibly the U.S. government. It would make the most logical sense instead of aliens, right? But who knows? What's your opinion on it? I'd love to hear it down in the comments below. And lots of great, awesome people here. Deanne says, interesting. Yes, it is. No, it's really interesting as far as the whole last few weeks has just been kind of been blowing me away. 2046, Phoenix will hit. Erica Buffa, are you referencing an asteroid or... and then stealth mode, we've got Slot Karma. I'm sorry, just keep the thing about the private meeting. Yes, we haven't gone to that, so you haven't missed anything yet. We should treat them as friendlies. Definitely U.S. military, says Rob Mills. I believe there's a lot of people that are on that agree with you there. Most UFOs are human tech, in my opinion. Someone else said, Peter Dean's not aliens, not the gov. They are clouds. Peter Dean says they're just puffy white clouds. Back to the telly. I got to get some new car. Preston Martin. Well, I would get it soon. Let's see here. I'd get it soon, especially if it's coming by train. Lawman Jed, Android Architect, Liz Dutchman, Tesla A474. What's going on? Charlie Don't Surf. Spartacus Now in the house. Bear Lover. Thank you. Shawnee Pope. What is going on? It says, have a good night, Jay-Z. Mr. Street says, we are not alone. And then Roy says, why not both? That's a good point, too. No, I'm sure there's some stuff there. Hey, Rhiannon S. What is going on? Everybody say hi to Rhiannon S. How are you doing? Aha, I made it. I made it. Love you, Marfia, Terabile. Thank you guys. It's nice to see you, Rhiannon. And then the daily coverage of another Vlad friend being offed. It says another Putin ally dead after suffocating on a business trip. You know, suffocating. It says another top ally of the president of Vladtown has died this week, this time of an alleged stroke while on a business trip in the village of Roshino in Vlad's Far East region. It said that Vladimir Nikolaevich Sungorkin, 68 years old, was editor-in-chief of the Vlad state newspaper Kosmolova Kalava Blala Problem. Sorry, that word was so long, I started hearing whale song. According to the newspaper, Sungorkin died suddenly after showing signs of suffocation during a trip on Wednesday. It happened absolutely suddenly, nothing foreshadowed. We were in the village of Roshino, we were driving, we were already making our way towards Khabarovsk, and we planned to get there in the evening today. And from there to Moscow, all was good. And then, bye-bye. Again, we've been covering these things every day. Another one of his circle has been... and then Vladian soldier in Kharkiv told his father in a call intercepted by UKR intelligence. Again, I always doubted, like, UKR intelligence, like... You know, obviously the U.S. has the CIA and the NSA. Vlad has the KGB. I don't know what Xi calls his. Israel has Mossad. I just always wondered, like, how top-notch theirs is. But it said everything, intelligence, that everything's bad, Vlad is losing, and they have nowhere to run. Again, this is coming from the UKR side. And remember, they're in a direct war, right? Anytime you have a war between two parties, there's going to be wartime propaganda. So it just makes sense. I bet Vlad is saying the same thing to their people, saying, oh, they're running, they're hiding. And at one point we showed you, there was articles coming out the same day of the same location, and Vlad said that they had a team of specialists there that just dropped everything and ran. And then on the UKR side, they said the same thing. They said the toughest, Vladian, their top battalion just dropped, weapons and kicked rocks. Same day, they both said that. So I don't know what to believe here. But again, the general story here is that Vlad is losing. They're retreating. Is the retreat a strategy thing? Are they doing it on purpose? Is this some sort of trap? Is this going to pull all of the troops into the areas that were already taken over and destroyed? Now there's no civilians there. Now are they going to launch something and just destroy all that area? That's a question I have. Dex, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, we just keep hearing more and more, first it was they made it to the border. Now it's, they're pushing out of this location, they're pushing out of that location. So, it's one side, but it is the side that they're getting the majority of the messaging out of, or at least out from, and that's what they're telling us. So, I always, like we say, we always take everything with a grain of salt. But at the same time, we also have to look at the fact of what it is they're trying to tell us, right? If they want this information out and they want it out in a big way, then why are they telling us? Why are they doing that? And if there's truth in it, and if they are actually pulling back, are they pulling back because they are losing, or are they pulling back in certain cases? Are they pulling out in certain areas that they're going to then turn around and do something in, and they need their military out of that location because of it, right?
I don't know. It doesn't, something doesn't seem right on this note. What do you guys think? I would love to hear your opinions in the chat. By the way, MWC said, I knew a Russian dude and he invented the ejection seat. Cool dude. That is such a cool invention. Ever since I was a kid, when I learned about how they did that, and it's like it shoots them out of the plane, and then on the seat has a parachute. It's just such a crazy thing. And you see in all the movies of the people that have ejected out and their parachutes get stuck on a tree or something, and they're still sitting in their chair. How much power do those things have to launch not only the weight of those heavy metal seats, but also the people? I think they have fuel. They like rocket out of it. What a trip. Smart invention, though. And then former U.S. general says he is even more concerned about Vlad using nukes as UKR makes astonishing progress in its counteroffensive. Almost too much progress. If you know history, Vlad's country is nothing to play with. They were a formidable foe. They drill hard. They spend half of their GDP. Now, they don't have the same GDP as the U.S. or China, but they do have a huge chunk of money, and half of it goes towards their military. And they do have people, like you said, that Vladian dude invented the ejection seat. It's not like only the most ingenious, smart geniuses are only born in the U.S. or only born in NATO countries. Geniuses are born wherever. So every country has their geniuses, their inventors, their whatever. Any of the newest technology that could end up ruling the planet could come from any country. It could come from an underdeveloped country. It could come from somebody that has it, and they just happen to be a local in, say Germany or Norway. And then Norway all of a sudden has the power that can defeat the whole world, right? Well, I just wonder what's actually happening with this, and what is going on. They took all this area. All of the people are cleared out. We have news that from all these places they retreated, they took all of the civilians, or they took a lot of them with them back over the border to Vlad's country. It seems like common sense that something weird is going on here. And now all of the UKR troops and all of their gear is getting put into these. They're even doing videos from these places. I think there's one in the web only where they've taken a video from one of the previously conquered areas, and now they're back and they're celebrating. Well, what if that's opening up a big hole? They take it over, they empty out all the civilians, and then now the military has basically drove them away, and they're all where they know they are, not inflatables or some decoy, and then they hit it with something tactical or even regular missiles and wipe out a huge chunk of their forces. I think that that probably is on the table, right? Dex, go ahead.
Adam, I was going to say I got an article in Screener for you. I think it was Murphy's Law that gave it to us in chat a little while ago, but something we didn't catch, so kind of fitting with the topics we're talking about.
Okay, I'm loading it right now. Let's see here. Thank you, Murphy's Law. I appreciate that. Holy crap. Whoa. This is big, folks. Breaking. There was an attack on Vlad's motorcade. Whoa. Ho, 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 ho. It said that Vlad's limousine is hit by a loud bang in possible attack. It said that Vlad's limousine is hit by a loud bang in possible attack, but Vlad leader is left unharmed, according to anti-Kremlin sources who revealed health scares and also claim he has ordered gymnast lover to have an abortion. It said that Vlad's car was attacked in what may have been an attempt on his life amid the UKR conflict. And I don't get it. They say his limousine was hit by a loud bang on its left front wheel, followed by heavy smoke, it is alleged. It says the car drove to safety with Vlad unharmed, but there have been multiple arrests from his security service, while other bodyguards have vanished, amid claims that secret information about the 69-year-old ruler's movement was compromised. So I wonder if he's kind of like Kim Jong right now and traveling by night and super paranoid and whatever else. What if we did see tomorrow? What if we woke up and they said that Vlad was taken out by some country or by something, right? They'll say a local did it to him, or they'll say it was a guy who, handmade a shoddy and said, he took money from my mom's church or something, something crazy like that, And when really it's, one of the governments that takes him out. Who knows? It could be his own. I wouldn't be surprised by it. Dex, would you be surprised if Vlad was taken out tomorrow?
But, it's with all the rhetoric that's flying around, I think we talked about like the mayors or the councils of these other areas calling him out. And then we had a story, it may have been in Overflow yesterday, about now he was trying to take all those people out of their position or dismember the authority of those people that were saying that. So there's a lot, potentially happening. And it's interesting because we only get this from the outside. It's not like this is necessarily being reported on the inside. Some of it is, some of it we've talked about, the things that are on the television shows there where they say, well, we can't really win in UKR, or we should accept defeat. But those are also talking heads. I mean, we've got just as many talking heads on our TV shows here that say one thing about our country and say something totally different about our country. So we have to, again, take it all with a grain of salt. It wouldn't surprise me if something happened, whether that was inside the country, coming from inside the country, or happening in the country, but from external forces. I mean, let's not forget the guy is in the middle of a conflict with, the West. He's in the middle of a conflict with NATO. So, it's not unfathomable to think that something could happen to him, just like it wasn't unfathomable to think something could have happened to, Zelensky too, right? And they talked early on about all these potential things that could have happened to him. So, we'll see. We'll have to watch this. It is a very interesting story. It is very concerning when you see this. So,
and then all of the talking heads on all of our media, they're talking about, all of the crazy drama going on. Of course, I think most people are just kind of burnt out on it. And then this is what's going on here, which I think people should be paying attention to. Unfortunately, we're not going to find out what the hell is going on. But this is why I think everybody should have their head on a swivel. Not because of what some German politician said or some other crazy stuff. This is very, very odd. I'm sure it very well could be an update on something. It says top members of Congress spotted going to secure room with the CIA director. It says top lawmakers were seen going into a sensitive compartmented information facility, or SCIF, with CIA Director William Burns on Tuesday. House Speaker Nancy, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff were part of the group. This also could be something totally different too. Like something's either being updated or something is being planned. Realize the power of the CIA. Realize the stories we've covered about how they are intertwined with being able to basically listen to the world. We always thought NSA was the bad ones. CIA recently came out when all of this crazy stuff came out. They were monitoring all of these different things, monitoring all the countries in the world, monitoring all this stuff. And they're the ones that the CIA is the agency that has toppled governments. And they're meeting with the top Congress members right now. It says 2 meetings were taking place Tuesday as a fire alarm went off. prompting a brief Capitol Visitor Center evacuation and U.S. Capitol Police investigation. They were an intelligence committee meeting and a Gang of 8 meeting with Burns, per Axios reporter. It says, I'm told there were 2 separate meetings when the fire alarm went off. Intelligence committee meeting and Gang of 8 meeting with CIA Director Burns. A Gang of 8 is a bipartisan, bicameral group of lawmakers who receive briefings on intelligence matters. This group includes a top member of each party of the intelligence panel in both the Senate and the House. Pelosi and McCarthy, as leaders of the House, and the Senate Majority Leader and Minority Leader are also part of it. The SCIF is a secure location where sensitive information can be viewed. What was discussed is unclear. And then, quote from Pelosi says, we have a lot of briefings. It says there's a lot going on in the world, and I haven't been briefed on that. I just see what's in the public domain. That was Heather Cagle. It says the sighting comes as lawmakers have demanded information about whether documents deemed classified found at former Prez DT's Mar-a-Lago resort posed a national security threat to the United States. However, Pelosi reportedly said she has not been briefed on the FBI raid of T-Man's home in Florida last month. So just keep in mind, anything if this is a meeting of this kind of caliber, there's a very good chance that either something has already happened, something's about to happen, or something is being planned as far as any kind of thing. It could be that, they know a bill's about to change that might cause havoc all over the place, or something has happened that the public doesn't know about yet. And then also that comment. What was that comment? It says basically, I don't know anything. All I know is what the public knows, right? It says there's been a lot going on in the world and I haven't been briefed on that. I just see what's in the public domain. I wonder what's not in the public domain. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like she knows everything that's not in the public domain.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter if they were, and so she knows all that. So what is in this very special meeting? That's what we want to know. What the hell is going on with the CIA and all the top Congress members? And is this the routine? Like, oh yeah, there's something going on in South Africa. There's this, there's that. Or is something happening right now that we don't know about? And if it was going to be talked about, it would be talked about in that room. All right. And then, what do you guys think it is? I'm going to go over to the chat. Let's see what you guys think it is. What do you think is being talked about in that room? Catherine Sigurd says, I'm what do you call it? I'm collecting copper wire. See, Laddie26 says she's a liar. Badger1, what's going on? Terabile. Naomi says Puppet Master meeting. Linda McDaniel says, I heard Congress is submitting bill to halt government spending. Think about how much we are in debt right now. Guys, that went by so fast. Somebody says it's about the new pillows. Yeah, it probably is about the pillow guy. It could be. Somebody said it's about nuke threats. Black Ops Vlad. Plague X and Evil Say or Way. I like that. The pig Latin. It very well could be. Nobody would be surprised by it. Everybody's talking about it. Steve Ridge. Hey, what's going on? Wizard of Techno. SCIF issues regarding Vlad. Scotty Caldwell. I guess he says I call Bravo Sierra. What do you call Bravo Sierra on? If they're actually having the meeting, or I guess maybe you might be in a different part of the show. So next, Steve O, 1966, the next demic. That's what they're talking about, according to him. Yoshi Bowser, they're contemplating toilet paper, 1 ply or 2. That would be. What if they had a shortage of just one ply? But you could get the good stuff, or you could get the good stuff, or you couldn't get the good stuff, but you could get the one ply. You know, the stuff that you can't even pull off the roll because it's so thin. You just keep pulling off one little single square, and you do that about 70 times. By the way, why do public bathrooms have the rolls to where it just does not want to go? And it doesn't matter if it's thick, you pull as soft as you can, and it just rips. Absolutely horrible. We need to have a whole show about that. Let's see here. Anna Trejos, Derek Boss. Here's the thing. You got to look at the big picture of what's going on. Look at everything that is happening. Also add things from the alternative news space that we know are facts. Canadian Prepper did a show with Atlas Survival. As far as Atlas Survival does, Atlas, the bunker company, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of bunkers are being made right now. Is that just because of what's going on with our geopolitics, or is there something else that some of those bigger people know? He also said that one of the top 5 richest people in the world is building a giant bunker right now. I believe him. I don't think he's lying about that. His company, if you look at how fast Atlas has grown, that company went from a tiny thing to it's becoming a monster. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts getting military contracts or something. Spartacus Now, Pole Shift, Dillard's, Rusty Craig, Carol McLean, What is Going On, Cody Wee, Stealth Mode, and Miss Meliss, What is Going On. All right, well, thank you, Lord Andrew. I appreciate that. Dex, let's talk about the web only. We've got a lot of crazy stuff going on over there, and of course, Pillow Guy got raided, and a ton more. So,
yeah. So head over to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that description on YouTube and click on the show notes. And let me tell you what you're missing out. Everything else that's over there. A lot of other news. There's a new warning coming out from the 3-letter agency that deals with mutations and what's going to be potentially happening with the monkey business. So if you want to know what's happening there, head over there. We got a few updates, some of the similar type stories we've heard about the conflict and what's going on with Vlad and them. So there's some updates there as well. Of course, the Pillow Man is in everything we talked about earlier, but you can go into detail. You can learn more about what they said and how it went about. And of course, that also continues into the rest of the story about T-Man and some of the things from the events that have been under investigation. Updates on lots of other things that are happening, including, specifically what they're calling violence in an epidemic proportion, that's pretty significant when they think about something that's that severe, and figure out where that's happening. That's in the U.S. It's in a city, in a state in our country, so that they're labeling it at that level. New superheroes are out, and some people are up in arms over it, quite literally, and lots of other things, including a controversial social media bill being signed into yet another state. You wouldn't be surprised to hear, but if you want to know the story, head over to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show. You'll get that and everything else that we couldn't get to. It's all right there, an entire show's worth of content. So if you haven't hit that, you're missing out. Again, on YouTube, open the description, click that first link. It's called Show Notes. It'll take you right here.
And as far as the superhero, Marvel and DC, if you follow that space, I certainly do, but there has just been, the culture has been absorbing into a lot of the Marvel and DC stuff. Eternals was movie that absolutely flopped. You may have liked it. I actually couldn't make it through the entire movie, but that movie was part of this new thing where they're basically basing their story around what they can fit into the movie as far as every kind of politically correct thing they can think of. They're pushing into it, and they're not focusing on story or plot or this or that. They're just trying to make sure they have something of something. I've mentioned the show Sandman. If you ended up watching it, I don't know if even people notice, but it's not even realistic. Like I was saying the other day, in real life, as obviously you walk down the street, there are gay and straight people all over the place. But to have a world, even a fantasy world, I mean, it's putting it in our time, and to have not a single straight couple in the thing, that's not realistic either. They don't even have a balance. It's just every single woman is with a woman, every single guy is with a guy. That's not realistic. And now I understand that people were underrepresented, but now you're doing the opposite, and you're not even representing the other half and more than half of people. I don't understand why they're forcing it to be changed so fast like this, and why in the last 4 years are they just completely going to the extreme end of it instead of having some sort of balance to it. I don't understand it. So I want to do some stuff on some of the culture that's out there, the video, the some of the shows. There's several that have caused just all sorts of crazy debate right now. She-Hulk, the Lord of the Rings show has done something that a lot of people didn't like because it didn't fit inside the official lore of Lord of the Rings. A lot of stuff that some could say that they're just bitching about it. But when it comes down to it, if you watch the show, it wasn't that great of a show. If it was the most amazing show ever, I don't really care who's acting in it. But again, it's like it wasn't even good to begin with. So, but they're pushing really hard. Everybody wants to make sure that they let everybody know that they are inclusive, but at the same time, they're going like way overboard. It's you can't even say anything about it now. All right, Dex, thank you for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And thank you, JJ. Hey, fam, please research the USA's 1999 third and final bankruptcy. Let's see here. I want to read the rest of that. What does that say? Third and final bankruptcy. Oh, and then thank you, Matthew. Third and final bankruptcy. You all have a duty to humanity to take what's happening very seriously. JJ, I will have to look into that myself. And then James Fox, thank you so much for your support. And then in my opinion, the Earth is very fat, only with an L. We will never get past the firmament. All this space talk is a distraction of where the aliens truly come from. They are from a different dimension, and then CERN is a tear in the dimensional wall. Matthew Kamaleski. Well, I'm glad that you're patient and you're able to hear other sides of it. I actually talked to, by the way, some of my mods have the same beliefs. I talked to one of them last night, and I said, I guess this is the kind of analogy. Some of the people that come in that are believing of the other shape, right? They just say, oh, you guys are idiots, you're stupid, you're this and that, and they call everybody names. It's kind of like if you see the gentleman on the corner screaming at people that they're going to go to hell. That's not. I don't think that's a good way to spread Christianity, to scream at people. There's exceptions where somebody is just preaching the word of God or the Bible, and they're being friendly about it, or saying it, or showing or doing like a public sermon. But the people that are just screaming at people, calling people names, I don't think that that's personally something that converts people. I think it pushes people away from it. The people that call people names, say you're going to hell, you're this and that, especially the people that do it, disrupt all sorts of stuff, basically stand in front of businesses and don't let people in and scream at people. It's the same kind of thing. If you want somebody to hear you out, at least be somewhat respectful, and most people will listen. That's my thought anyways. I get my opinion. But thank you. And Matthew, I appreciate it. James Fox, I appreciate it. Canine Therapy, NS909, Ladybug, Seeking Truth, Stiletto Czar, Zen1AZ, Justin True, Cummings 08, Seeking Truth, LAPD SWAT, Kano's Kid, Stephen McMahon, wherever you are, thank you so much. Little Bear, Trinity Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho, Kermit the Frog here. And then Mary Tyndall, thank you. Shirley Millward, Machina Opus, Survival Game, Bandy Bear, and Nana of Montana. Thank you. Dex, thanks for your service today, and I appreciate you. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you.
Absolutely.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. This is where I say thank you to the people that matter most, you. Machina Opus, Stephen McMahon, Survival Game in the Bandy Band, Banner of Montana, Schmidt, E. Humwell, Veronica Powers doing well, Keno's Kid in the Donnie Ray, everybody gonna say, so real, and be a real beast, can eat crowd for real, and care what tell me. Back around, bring it on, just to bring it down, seeking through, lady, bar, my friend word for VPNs, yeah, told me to prep up, do it, yeah. By the way, NS909 says, my friend works at BNSF and he told me to prep up. So working at, of course, the railways. If you can talk to your friend to come in on my show, I would love to hear from him tomorrow. We got 2 days until that strike goes. James Fox, just new house, Canine Therapy, I don't know. Hey, everybody knows that I'm at you. Kamileski, JJ at you. Oh, nah, Lady Boy, and then back now. Hey, oh, I say, oh, hey, amone, hey, mo, ane, from France, I say, whoa. Thank you, Linda McDaniel, Jane Below, Douglas Sullivan, Paul Nelson, Belinda Goltz, Whitetail 7, Murphy's Law, Carmine Petraka, Brian Knight, What is Happening, Lisa R. Hall, Chance Paladin. Say thank you to all the mods. Now it's 2020, but Linda goes. KT cleans up lots of Juby Joe and the Bobby Sue. DJ and everybody too. Josh Family Garden, Love Man Jan, Tim Forehead, Mr. Ed, Rain on the Derrick and the Dairy Boss. Everybody gonna run their hearts off with the wolves. On the verse and the good. stealth mode in the black sheep. Wiggle, wiggle, jiggle, jiggle, slide in the backbeat. Little bear in the Linda McDaniel. Poker Loco in it, everybody's scandal. Hey, with the K, Parker Frazier. Thinking Marf, Dex, Mods, and the Aza. Back ass words, we're real thorough. Taking little steps every day. Live in your destiny. Hey, Marf with the sick beats. Hunt in the big beats. Hunt with the sick beats. Marf with the sick beats. Marf with the sick beats. Hunt in the big beats. Marf with the sick 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 beats. Marf with the We're going to make a song for A Monet. I think it's French. M-O-N-E with one of those little fancy thingies. The asterisk thing, or not asterisk. Accents. And Monet. A Monet. I say a Monet. I say a Monet. I say a Monet. I say a